Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there tonight and had yourselves a wonderful day. And I hope everyone has been having a great weekend out there so far. Here to break down once again the latest on Tropical Storm Beryl. It is still a tropical storm. We expect that to change as we get into tomorrow. I think by the time we get into this time tomorrow, this potentially could be back to hurricane status. So we just got to watch out for that. But we're here to give you the latest information on this thing. We'll talk about what's going on with it right now, the latest from the National Hurricane Center. We'll go over some of the latest model guidance, but I'm telling you, we're kind of in a period now. We're looking over all this model guidance and getting super detailed on it is almost pointless. Just because, I mean, we're in the last 48 hours of the life of Beryl. We've been talking about it nonstop for over a week now. It seems like it's been much, much longer. I'm honestly just kind of over it now, just because, this is impacting people's lives. And, this has been a really, really, really early start to hurricane season. And we just need to get back to the normal slowness of summer and have a chance to recuperate and prepare for the next risk to come. But I think it goes without saying that we're all pretty much done with Beryl, but unfortunately it is going to have one last hurrah, and tomorrow it will have a chance to strengthen before ultimately meeting its end as it moves inland with land interaction. So like I said, we'll go over the latest information. We'll talk about impacts also. We'll talk about what's going to drive the re-strengthening of the system, really more so tomorrow. We're not going to get deep into the steering currents anymore. We pretty much know that this is heading right towards Texas. If you're a new viewer or anything like that, definitely check out this morning's video. I dive deep into why this is going the way it's going. And try to explain it in a way where you guys can understand. But, we've been talking about that nonstop. It's time to just really focus in on the impacts of this and what's to come. So I really want to say, and I know this intro is going to get extended a little bit further out, but thank you all for the amazing support over the last over a week. Thank you for trusting me. I made a post on social media under an hour ago, not to say that I expected any different, and I certainly did not, but you guys in the Caribbean have been incredibly nice, incredibly polite, and I guess what I'm saying is it's pretty wild for you guys to trust me. Somebody here in South Carolina here in the U.S., and you folks trust me enough to get your information from as a trusted source. So thank you for being nice, being patient with me as I try to pronounce some of the names down here. And I really appreciate y'all very, very much. I just had some time today throughout the afternoon hours to really slow things down. Even got to take an afternoon nap, and things have been so high paced over the last several days that, I just had an opportunity to really rest today, I guess you would say. So I just really had time to slow down my thoughts and really just think of how nice y'all been and polite. Just thank y'all for the patience. The same thing with my folks up here in Canada. I know that 90% of the time I'm talking about the weather in the U.S., but Canada, for example, is always so polite when we're talking about those nor'easters. So I know this is extending past 3 minutes, but I just want to show my appreciation to y'all. It means the world, and thank y'all very, very much. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. I was able to get caught up with my comments today, so that was awesome. But this is what's going on with Beryl right now. It looks much better surface value than it did when we made a video this morning, right? I mentioned it looked like a half-eaten sandwich this morning. But listen, this thing is still struggling. I mean, it looks better. It's popping off deeper convection. You can see that indicated by the colder cloud tops right into here. But this thing is still dealing with a lot of what we call mid-level dry air, and it's because there's an upper trough influence over here that's in the weakening stages, but it has still created a dry atmosphere over Mexico, and that dry air is getting wrapped into the circulation of this storm. Now, this is in the process of really generating a protection, if you will, for its core. And once it does, and moisture and banding features like just showers and storms can fully wrap around the center again, mixed in with the fact that this is steadily moving over warmer and warmer water, the warmer and warmer waters of the Gulf of Mexico. This is still going to gradually strengthen. It might undergo a period of moderate intensification, rapid intensification. I don't know about that. We were talking about that a little bit. But listen, it's the Gulf of Mexico. You guys know. I know a lot of people are wanting to compare this to Harvey, and there is some comparisons. The biggest difference Biggest difference between this and Harvey is that Harvey had no dry air. Okay, it did look completely destroyed way down here, just like Beryl did this morning. But Harvey, once it got into the Gulf of Mexico, away from the Yucatan Peninsula and all that and land, it had just almost a near perfect environment. No dry air to deal with, and it had the super warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. This is going to be dealing with dry air, I think, all the way up to the final like 6 to 8 hours before it makes landfall. So that's the biggest difference, and that mixed with the fact that Beryl was moving a little bit quicker than Harvey. Harvey really stalled out when it got into this region off the Texas coastline. But I understand the comparisons, and I would compare it to it also. But I don't think we're going to go from a tropical storm to a Category 4 hurricane, and I hope that I don't eat my words there, have to eat the crow. Let's hope that that does not happen. But this is the system right now. It's in the process of recovering. But talking about that dry air, remember the black right in here? This indicates dry air in all levels of the atmosphere right in here. That's the dry air, okay? Moist air right here in the white, more blue, kind of whitish colors. That's just dry air and certain levels of the atmosphere, like the mid-levels. But this is dry air in just about all levels. And you see how it's just coming all the way down here, and then it goes all the way up to the back side of this system. So dry air is still affecting this system. Now, not as much as this morning, as this thing is starting to get its core back together. I think as we wake up tomorrow morning, it's going to be pivotal, huge on what this looks like. I think that'll tell the tale on what's going to happen the final 18 to 24 hours from tomorrow morning. But you're already getting kind of a moist feed into Texas. You're getting some showers and storms into southeastern Texas. A little bit of moist air, kind of enhanced moist air into Louisiana also. But we have to see what this thing looks like as we wake up tomorrow morning. We are expecting this to be stronger. But I still think most of the strengthening, and I said this a couple videos ago, I thought if this thing strengthened today, that wouldn't be good at all. It did not that much, if any at all. Okay, but I think that Sunday, tomorrow, was always going to be the big day for Beryl to get its act together right at the last second. Okay, so the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. Now, I'm making this video pretty early, before 5 o'clock, so I don't even think that we have the 5 o'clock update here. I was just impatient and just was wanting to get this information out to you guys. But the latest information we do have is that this is a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. The hurricane hunters are flying into this right now to see what's under the hood. So I don't have that information for you. But my bet is that it shouldn't be a whole lot different than it was several hours ago. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do find some stronger conditions in this system. In fact, I'll pull it up on the fly for you folks and see where they are right now. And yeah, they're en route. They're leaving Florida right now. They're leaving the west coast of Florida. So we don't have any new information. I mean, they're still pretty far out. I mean, this is what, the Tampa Bay area. So they're still way out in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, way away from the system. So, by the time that we do get to here in the next hour, we will have new information for this. But right now, 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Now, as we get into the wee hours of the morning after midnight tonight, forecast to be a 65-mile-per-hour tropical storm. And they're saying by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, it's back up to hurricane status, a Category 1, 75-mile-per-hour hurricane. But by the time we get into the wee hours of the morning, well, just after midnight Monday, about 2 a.m. Monday, it's up to a 85-mile-per-hour hurricane. But it's no longer showing max intensity forecast up to 90 miles per hour. We still got the hurricane watches up from just south of Galveston down to the Matagorda Bay, down to the Corpus Christi Bay and all the bays in between. And then we do have tropical storm warnings up down the southern Texas coastline all the way down to the northern Mexico coastline right here. I expect these to get upgraded to hurricane warnings, maybe at the 5 p.m. advisory. So, I fully 100% chance that this is going to get upgraded to hurricane warnings here in the next update or two. But we zoom back out because a lot of people are starting to wonder in eastern Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, getting some questions in this area. Of course, with it moving over land, it's going to weaken to a tropical storm very quickly, then a depression, and then just kind of a remnant low. But I'm telling you, as this is rumbling through eastern Texas, and listen, entire area right here, I think is going to have a legit flooding and tornado threat. I mean, maybe not as far back as like southwest Mississippi, but if you live in eastern, and Houston included, you got a 5% risk of a tornado tomorrow. You're going to have an appreciable tornado threat over the next couple days, I think, and a flooding risk. And then, of course, right along the immediate track of the actual center of low pressure, really pretty gusty winds, and then a flooding threat there too. We'll figure that out as we go. But by the time we're in northeastern Texas, this is a tropical depression. Mary, who is a loyal viewer here and a supporter of the channel here in northeastern Texas, the remnants of this might go right over your house. So, but this, by the time we get into areas of the Midwest, starting to get to the Ohio Valley, we're probably going to get impacts from this. If you folks in Indianapolis, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, you'll get moisture from this. It's just obviously you're not going to get a full-fledged hurricane up here. But more of the traditional look from the National Hurricane Center. See if we got the 5 p.m. Oh, we do. Cool. So that's rare. We got the 4 p.m. Central Time update, which is equivalent to the 5 p.m. update here in Eastern Time. But traditional look here, forecast to become a hurricane. And look, they have upgraded it to hurricane warnings now. So I'm glad I called it. So we actually can go back to this, upgrade this, see if we got any change, and we're lagging on Zoom Earth, which is kind of surprising because typically Zoom Earth is, they upgrade their graphics before the National Hurricane Center does, but that is new. So we actually have upgrades to hurricane warnings now. Right here, you see in the red area, Matagorda Bay, Corpus Christi Bay, just south of the Galveston area. Galveston, tropical storm warnings up now. Okay, just south, hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings up. So this is new information. I wish this would upgrade because we can see if the intensity forecast has actually changed. But we'll try to go back to it. But that's cool. We got the upgrade in this. And there has been some tweaks to some of the warnings. Moving northwest at 13 miles per hour, still a 60 mile per hour tropical storm here. So, all right. So let's look at the latest millibar reading. Here is still a 997 millibar. I expect them to make a pretty, I think the 8 p.m. update, 7 p.m. Central Time update will be, there'll be some changes to that because we're going to have the hurricane hunters are going to be in there, probably find some new information. They'll see if this is strengthened, maintained. I have a feeling the millibars are probably dropped. It might be more of a 994-ish, 995-ish millibar tropical system, but this is not anything that wasn't expected, if that makes sense. So right now 997. Let's look at the latest European, and this is probably the only operational model that we'll look at. I'm not going to look at the GFS. I'll probably look at the icon because it's done so well. I have to kind of do that on the fly, but it's initializing pretty well. Euro is initializing as a 996 millibar low. Okay, takes this, kind of maintains it overnight, actually kind of weakens it. And then it kind of begins to strengthen it as we're getting into tomorrow morning. So waking up tomorrow morning, this is a 990 millibar low pressure tropical storm. And this is in 1 hour increments if you're wondering why it's going so slow. This isn't like 3 to 6 hour increments, and that wouldn't be good. But as we're getting into tomorrow afternoon, it gets to sub 990. Okay, starts to drop to 988, 987. And then, guys, I'm telling you, I think right late tomorrow night into early Monday morning, right as it's making its approach to landfall, the last time Beryl will be over water. It's going to make one last significant push of strengthening, especially after midnight tomorrow. So this is around 2 a.m. Central Time, Matagorda Bay right into here. And here it comes. It's starting to get to 980 millibar strength, which this is definitely a Category 1 hurricane. Does it drop to sub 980? Well, the Euro has this making landfall just north of the Matagorda Bay sometime 6, 7 o'clock in the morning Monday. Okay, then it begins to significantly weaken with land interaction. Now, what about the icon? We probably definitely do. I hate when I say that, but what about the icon model? What is it showing? It's done great with sniffing out this more northerly solution for the last like 4 or 5 days. Here it comes as we're getting into tomorrow afternoon. Low 990s. Okay, getting into 987, 984, and it's actually a little bit more of a weaker scenario solution than the European. Makes landfalls at 982 millibar low. about an hour or two earlier than the European, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning between Galveston and the Matagorda Bay, right in between both. So it's a little bit further north, though, as a more of a northerly scenario, and this would make landfall around the strength that the National Hurricane Center is forecasting to do so. Category 1 mid-grade hurricane. Could this sneak to Category 2 status? Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if it does, but we're talking about Category 3 major. I mean, I'm never going to say never with the Gulf of Mexico, but I think the chances of that have dropped. And, you know, this pretty much backs it up. We look at the European ensemble, makes up 51 members, throws them all on the screen for us. What's kind of blowing my mind, guys, is there's still a big spread as this gets to the Texas coastline right before the sun comes up, or right along when the sun's coming up Monday morning. You still got some members pretty far south down here, and you still got quite a few members up here, you know, getting close to Houston, Galveston, but of course, kind of the medium, the average is right here in the middle. Corpus Christi Bay to the Matagorda Bay, right into here. This is where a lot of these members want to go, make landfall. And you notice about, if you look really closely, you look at the numbers here, 970, 988, 979, 973. You got some Category 1 to low-end Category 2 hurricanes mixing in there. Now, you do have some stronger members, like 970, 960 something. You know, that's pushing definitely Category 2 status. But for the most part, this is not showing a major hurricane, Category 3 or higher. Now, let's look at the H-Wharf model. What is it showing? It's initializing pretty well. It's initializing as a 996 millibar low, so that's about what it is. And the structure of this hurricane, it looks like that's probably how it is. You know, all the energy is shunted off to the northern northwestern side because of all that dry air. Remember, all that dry air kind of coming to the southern flank of the storm and wrapping all the way into the circulation, all the way to the eastern side. So all the energy is right into here. Get that back off and keep this rolling. We get into the overnight hours tonight. Midnight, see that millibar number, it begins to drop, 989. Waking up tomorrow morning, this is a 986 millibar. If the H-Wharf model is correct, it says we're waking up to a hurricane tomorrow. 986 millibar, Category 1 hurricane, and the core, notice this, watch the difference here. No southern, southeastern, eastern, northeastern protection for this low. There's no full-fledged convection wrapping around. Anytime I say convection, I mean storms. In this case, kind of an eye wall wrapping around this low. Watch as we start to get into tomorrow morning. We get, you know, full wrapping of the convection around the center of low pressure. Okay, and then we start to get into midday Sunday. We're getting a lot of outer bands. This is pretty far south than some of these other operational model runs like the Euro and the Icon, the GFS. But as we're getting into Sunday afternoon, this is moving closer. I think at this point, this starts to move north at this point. We're getting to Sunday evening. This is a 980 millibar Category 1 hurricane. Drops sub 980. And this thing, like I said, look how it drops 5 millibars in 6 hours. It's 975. It's undergoing a period of moderate strengthening. And this is a weird scenario. This is a scenario where this thing it doesn't just completely bullseye into the coast. It kind of almost grinds north into the coastline. What you don't want to see, this is going to bring heavier impacts. It's basically going to grind this eye wall along the southern and central coastline. You want this just to kind of move in and move out. So this isn't a scenario you want to see off the H-Wharf model. Hopefully the next run is different. We'll have to see. But if you stop it right here, this makes landfall as a 970-ish millibar low. This is definitely a Category 2 hurricane. That's the Matagorda Bay. That's Galveston, Houston up here. Corpus Christi Bay right into here. This would make landfall. This would bring big time impacts to Corpus Christi. Brownsville down here. And once again, we'll explain this. Okay, this is offshore flow. Okay, this is onshore flow. So if something like this was to happen, this would bring some, and I mean, you're still getting it right in here, and you're still getting intense onshore flow up here too. But this would bring hefty storm surge issues right into this region. And of course, you got to deal with the actual eye wall too. Something like, I think the H-Wharf model is a worst case scenario. But it's done well with this storm because it seems like the worst case scenario has been playing out with the life of Beryl. But it is further south, which kind of contradicts a stronger system being further north, if that makes any sense. Okay, so you kind of back this up, and we do have the HFA model. It's initializing pretty well too, and I wouldn't be surprised if we had a radar out here in the Gulf of Mexico. This is exactly what it looked like. Just kind of void of a lot of precipitation. I have a feeling that it's probably a little bit more intense than this based off what we're seeing on satellite. But initializing pretty well too, a little like a tick weaker. But this keeps on going. This is the HFA model. This starts to strengthen overnight. Wake up tomorrow morning, still to a tropical storm, but you're starting to get more wrapping around this low. 993, getting to sub 990 now tomorrow afternoon, getting to 982. And this thing really gets its act together right before landfall. Look at this. Look how it looks like this. Just looks kind of everywhere, and then all of a sudden, right before landfall, around the wee hours of the morning, Monday morning, before the sun even comes up, makes landfalls at 975, nearing Category 2 hurricane. Looks compact, too. And this is further north. The H-Wharf model is way down here, right? Matagorda Bay here, Houston, Galveston up here. This is the HF model. Houston, Galveston right here. This is further north. This actually makes landfall north of the Matagorda Bay. And I know that I'm being really specific about landfall, but it means a lot, guys, but especially with storm surge. This would bring your worst storm surge right into here. And this would bring an offshore flow into the Matagorda Bay, meaning water would actually be being pushed out after the core went through. It'll be getting pushed in like right into here. But yeah, this is some intense banding features. If something like this was to play out, getting into Houston right here, this would bring some nasty banding into this region. A tornado risk would begin to develop Monday morning. So definitely a scenario we got to watch out for. And, you keep on going here. You get into Monday afternoon. Look at all, and this is something I haven't really showed much. We kind of look at the HFA model. Obviously, this system's weakening. Look at these banding features in the eastern Texas, Louisiana, western Louisiana. These will be producing tornadoes, very heavy rain. And look at all the heavy rain surging into southwestern Arkansas, getting into Tuesday morning. And then this could do all kinds of weird stuff once it gets into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and could bring an appreciable tornado threat even in those areas with this remnant low. So if you're wondering what causes a tornado threat with these tropical systems, well, these tropical systems on the right side, as the circulation comes in, it almost creates their own low-level jet. Increased winds in the low levels, very, very fast winds in the low levels, right on the right side of the system. And then mixed with the fact that the tropical system brings tropical air. So you basically get an overlapping moist sector with favorable kinematics riding over that moist sector. So it's like it creates its own dome of weather, if that makes any sense. But when we're talking about rainfall, guys, and let's see if we have any new information. Yeah, we actually do. They've actually lessened the rainfall, so that's good. But still, right into the Matagorda Bay region, right between Houston and Corpus Christi. This will be where your most rainfall is, anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of rain is possible. And we got this swath of 6 to 8 inches of rain through eastern Texas in this kind of lighter shade of orange. Got that pocket of 8 to 12 in a couple little areas. But in general, just know that a lot of rain is going to fall all the way up to Little Rock. It's between now and the next 5 days. Little Rock going for 4 to 6 inches of rain. Southwestern Arkansas, a lot of rain. Of course, not as much into Mississippi. You're probably going to get a risk of some of this rain into western Louisiana. Oklahoma, Dallas, Fort Worth, I really think that this system is going to recurve. And I think the rain you get up here is more so from the trough. But let's see if we have any new information here. We don't. In that red area, that is at least a 40% risk of excessive rainfall being exceeded, flash flood guidance being met. In the yellow area, that's a 15% risk of the same thing. So another way to look at this, as far as how much rain can fall between now and Friday morning, see this swath of kind of tan, almost whitish, brownish color here. It's anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of rain through southwestern Arkansas over the next several days through this week, basically. But there is, right down here in the Matagorda Bay, possibility of 8 to 10 inches of rain. You look at Arkansas a little bit up the road and in areas of northern Louisiana. I really think that Arkansas is going to get a lot of rain from this. You guys are going to see direct impacts from the leftovers of Beryl and Arkansas, and even southeastern, the Boot Hill, Missouri, all the way and eventually into, Ohio Valley, areas of the Midwest. So a lot of rain, anywhere from 2 to as much as 6 inches of rain throughout Arkansas, especially the southwestern portion of the state. So there's going to be a tornado risk tomorrow, guys. There's a 5% risk of a tornado. You might as well just say, like, from Corpus Christi to Houston, a little bit on up the road outside of Houston too, Galveston including, Victoria, Rockport, you guys, 5% risk of a tornado. So, I mean, this is just your classic tornado risk coming from a tropical system. Happens just about even with a weaker system. But as far as peak storm surge, they have bumped it up. I'm glad I'm hitting the update button because they are changing this as I'm doing the video. So, check it out. Now they're up from that 3 to 5 feet expected in the Matagorda Bay to 4 to 6 feet, 2 to 4 feet up here to the Galveston Bay. Even some storm surge now predicted into the southwestern coastline of Louisiana. Cameron, Sabine Pass, Sargent, all the way down here to the Corpus Christi Bay, still 3 to 5 feet. Mouth of the Rio Grande, 2 to 4 feet points north into this region. So we're going to get a lot of storm surge into these Texas Bay areas here. So be expecting this could go up depending on where they figure out where this is coming in. I expect this to increase maybe even more. Let's see if we can get an update from this. And we got a new update. Man, I'm glad I'm hitting that update button. So they have increased. This is the chance to see 58 mile per hour winds or higher. And they've increased it from the Corpus Christi Bay to the Matagorda Bay right here in this region up to a 50 to 60, even some areas a 70% chance of that. So you're even starting to get a percent of that. So, 5 to 20% chance getting close to Galveston. So strong winds are on the way. Chance to see hurricane force conditions. Let's look at that. And not many changes to that, but certainly 10 to 20% chance of hurricane force conditions. Wind-wise, 74 miles per hour or higher. I expect this to increase as they kind of nail down the timing and where the eye wall is actually going to hit. But if we're looking at the timeline of these winds, expect tropical storm force wind conditions to hit the Texas coastline as early as tomorrow afternoon with some of these outer bands. Could get gusts from 40, 50, 60 miles per hour, maybe even higher. So you're starting to see the impact as early as tomorrow morning, honestly. So as far as a closer look at these wind speeds. Okay, so Galveston right here, Houston, Matagorda Bay here, Corpus Christi Bay down here, and Corpus Christi itself. The Euro says, hey, I'm going to bring the eye wall right between Galveston and then the Matagorda Bay. So whoever lives in this region here, the Euro is saying, hey, this is right where I'm going to bring the worst conditions. This is a good bit. This is probably one of the more northern modes of the model guidance. This would bring, and this is wind gusts, not consistent, persistent wind speeds. This would bring, 80, 90, maybe 100 mile per hour wind gust into this area of the coastline right here. Okay. Now, if you look at the last year GFS run that ran, not as strong of a system. This would go right over the Matagorda Bay, the worst of this, 70, 80 mile per hour wind gusts being possible. If we look at a scenario from the HWRF model that ran this afternoon, this would bring a more southerly solution. And we stop it right here. This is around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning. This is bringing 70, 80 mile per hour winds into the Corpus Christi Bay, south of the Matagorda Bay. But once again, this is bringing an intense onshore flow around this area right into this area. So we're getting a lot of water getting pushed up against these bays, even water getting pushed up against, Galveston Bay up here and, and just that region right up here. Even, some storm surge up into the southwestern sections of the coastal regions of Louisiana. But wherever the center of the storm goes, that's where your worst storm surge is going to be. And the HWRF model is certainly more of a southerly scenario. But this would bring really bad conditions just south of the Matagorda Bay. More so impacting the kind of the Corpus Christi area and stuff like that. Now, you kind of compare this with the HFA model. It's a little bit further north. This will bring the worst conditions right and just north, I guess you would technically say just northeast, up the northern, a little bit further up the northern coastline of Texas, right just north of Matagorda Bay. And this would impact more significantly areas between Galveston and the Matagorda Bay right into here. This would bring wind speed 60, 70, 80 miles per hour into this area. So, talking about what could potentially strengthen this, okay, our tropical system, where is it? Like right into here. Okay, so sea surface temperatures into here are well into the 80s. But then I want you to look right into here, right off the coastline of Texas. So this is in Celsius, I know. So my folks in Texas are like, man, why are you showing us temperatures in Celsius? We go by Fahrenheit. Well, we're the oddballs, by the way. But, I'll be completely honest. I can't convert Celsius to Fahrenheit right off the top of my head. But I kind of know it enough to be able to say it, what it is in general. But, when you got sea surface temperatures 30, 31 degrees Celsius, that's equivalent to about the mid to upper 80s in Fahrenheit. So you basically got bathtub waters off the coast of Texas. We all know that sea surface temperatures pretty much everywhere in the Atlantic are above average, especially in the tropical Atlantic and across the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico. It's really starting to heat up around the Bahamas too, which is concerning, and off the coast of the southeast. So this still has to go into this area or wherever it goes. So not only are the sea surface temperatures going to continue to warm as this continues to move into this area, but get this back off, the upper wind pattern will improve. The reason this is struggling right now mainly is because it's sitting in between two features, and I made a post about this on social media. It's sitting between two features that could significantly impact the system more. One is this anticyclonic flow right into here. You can see the streamlines, and these are winds and the upper levels of the atmosphere. I'm talking about 35, 40,000 feet up in the air. If this low was positioned like right here, this could definitely undergo rapid intensification, and I would be genuinely worried about the central Gulf coastline. But obviously, this flow is positioned right here, and the low is over here. But you got this feature right in here that's diving down, this little weak upper low. This has been what's been responsible for the dry air that's gotten sucked up into the circulation of Beryl. Now, I don't think this would have bothered this much if it wasn't for the Yucatan Peninsula right into here. If this wouldn't have moved right over this, okay, and disrupted the core, I think that this system would have survived more or done better against the dry air and the wind shear created by this upper low. But it went over land, it got messed with enough, kind of opened the door to the core of the system, allowing for dry air to kind of get sucked in from into the system because of this upper low feature, which brings its own dry air. But I want you to watch as this little dip that you're seeing kind of disappears. Let's get this back in motion. Okay. It goes away, and all of a sudden, you get right here, and air is getting dispersed out from this tropical system. See how it's getting pushed away, and then it kind of dramatically goes like this, right into this region, even out here. So we got a nice outflow from this system. Air is getting pushed out away from the system, the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is allowing for more air to rise, and it's also getting a jet boost from this trough that's digging down to the central U.S., which is ultimately what is helping aid in pushing Beryl north. That's really dug down to the central U.S., and there's a jet streak right over this area. This is also giving this a boost also. So this is why, and this is getting into late tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, this is why Beryl will do its most strengthening right before landfall. So if we get to this time tomorrow and Beryl still does not look that great, and everybody's saying, man, this is not even going to hit a hurricane. And guys, I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't a hurricane this time tomorrow evening. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Like I said, I really think Beryl will do most of its strengthening, honestly, after the sun goes down tomorrow, or right around late tomorrow afternoon, and I think that's when it begins. And then we're going to see this probably drop maybe as much as 10 to 15 millibars right before landfall, I would guess. That's my call on it. I like to give my take, and I think you guys that's been viewing for quite some time know that I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. But that's my take on it. Conditions will be the best in the Gulf of Mexico right before landfall. So That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Once again, I appreciate all the amazing support over the last several days. Praying for you guys in Texas, praying for the best case scenario for you folks. The good news over the last 24 hours has been that, there might be a better case scenario that involves with this and not one of those higher end scenarios where we're talking about a category 3 or 4. But definitely stay tuned for another update in the morning because things could change fast, as you know. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful night.